ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my groaning. Give attention to the sound of my cry, my King and my God. For to you do I pray. I've always been a Christian. I've always believed in a right and a wrong, a good and an evil, a redeemer and a deceiver. That God has my best interest in mind, and that when I pray, He hears me and answers me. But I wasn't prepared for when God decided to answer everything with no. It all started with an announcement. It was a big announcement of something very small. In fact, she was very, very small. And usually people are filled with excitement, but for us, this was unexpected. So for us, we were filled with worry, doubt, and maybe even a little fear. So I prayed for peace, that we would be able to remain calm in this new change and have smooth sailing from here on. A few weeks later, I lost my job. Oddly enough, when I asked for smooth sailing, it wasn't supposed to be away from my home church and a steady income. So I prayed again, and this time for provision. A few days later, my wife walked in and said that she and the rest of her coworkers were getting a permanent pay cut. I prayed for direction, that God would help us navigate all of this new that was happening. But navigation was not bound to be my strong suit, as that very week my car died on the road. As I sat there waiting for my car to cool down long enough that I could limp it home, it felt like all of my securities were literally going up in smoke. Everything was harder. Everything was more difficult. It was like God had taken everything that we had prayed for and basically just said, no. Trust me. A few months went by, and the due date for the baby was coming quickly. We prayed that everything would go according to plan and that she would show up into the world healthy and happy. The due date came. The due date went. No baby girl. We prayed that she would come out naturally. No induction needed. 11 days later, we were accepted into the hospital for induction of labor. And God's answers kept coming. God, give my wife a break from the pain that these meds are causing her. No. Trust me. God, give her a chance to rest in this process. No. Trust me. God, let us get through this without having to do an epidural like she was hoping. No. Trust me. God, get our kid out without surgery. No. Trust me. And that's where I was left. 4:15 in the morning. I waited in scrubs in an empty, quiet room, leaving me by myself with only the sound of the crashing waves and wind of my mind to keep me company. That, and the answer that we had received so many times now. Trust me. My struggle in the moment made sense. My pain and my anger and my confusion, they all had their place as the storm around me came to a crescendo. A storm I had no control over. A storm that changed the trajectory of my life in a way that I never would have expected. It reminded me of the chaos Peter must have felt when he and the other disciples were trapped by a storm of their own. See, many of them had sailed all of their life, and yet this storm was tossing them around like a bath toy for a child. I could relate. I was a Christian all my life, and yet I barely felt like I could weather all the things that were being thrown my way. And then, during this storm, in the story, a voice called out to the disciples saying, "Take heart. It is I. Do not be afraid." According to the world, the only thing that would make sense for Peter or I to do was stay in the boat. Hold on tightly to anything and everything within our grasp. Control whatever you could. According to the world, to trust a mysterious stranger who's walking on water in the middle of a thunderstorm is crazy. It is crazy. You see, like Peter before me, I realized I didn't have to trust a stranger. See, in the story, Peter calls out and he says, "Lord, if it's you, bid me to come out onto the water. Tell me to leave the boat." To which Jesus replied, "Come."
Mr. Ratliff, you can come with me.
God never expects us to trust without seeing who He is, what He can do, and how much He loves us. All throughout His Word, He shows Himself so that we can know exactly who is calling us out of the boat. Moments later, I witnessed our daughter's first breath as she entered into the world, safe and healthy. Since then, the waves have been a little less violent and the wind a little less harsh. There will be more storms to weather through. Those don't really go away. But neither does God. A God who has called us and loves us. A God who wants us to know who He is. Peter got out of the boat and walked on water because he knew who called him. We can do the same.